Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I'm about to show you a clip. I'm going to tell you what my problem is with Pochettino at Chelsea. Now what happens a lot of the time when you're making content is you kind of get that one moment to articulate your thoughts and feelings on a subject and you'll miss little elements of it. And I'm going to try something a little bit different here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a clip from this week's Ripple Effect. And we're talking about Pochettino and what he needs to do to thrive at Chelsea. And I talk about my problem with Pochettino in this clip. And Hugh Woozencroft, who is fantastic in this episode, go check out the whole episode. I'll put a link down below. He makes a couple of comments which I think are interesting. And what I want to do is kind of utilize the fact that I take in a lot of like articles and information. You then sort of filter it through and have your own take on stuff as well, and you mix it all together so that you can be well informed, or attempt to be at least. So I know this is a bit weird, maybe a bit egotistical, but I kind of watched this clip back and I thought, oh, there's some things I'd like to say and some questions I'd like to ask you guys about as well. And you can't really do that through, you know, a podcast that's on Spotify. So I'm going to show you this clip and I'm going to provide some questions at the end of it. So stick around, watch this. I'll see you on the other side. Chelsea, they've got a new manager in the most long drawn-out negotiations, which I find hilarious with all this. Tottenham, they were talking about how they're not going to have an interview with Nagelsmann. Talk to everyone. Like, do interviews. Yeah. I did find this hilarious, this sort of like arrogance that, oh, no, we didn't even talk to him, which is obviously just fear that the press will go, they turned you down. Yeah. And Nagelsmann has turned you down. Anyway, that's another podcast. But Chelsea look like they've got Pochettino, former Tottenham manager. I've got a whole list of questions here. I'm going to kind of try and figure out what's necessary for Poch to thrive at Chelsea. I guess the first thing to ask you, Hugh, is how do you feel about him coming into the club, and what do you think about Chelsea generally at the moment?
Oh, it's an absolute mess generally at the moment, to be honest. I was thinking this the other day, earlier this morning actually, and I was on the tube, and I was like, what does Poch need to do when he gets to Chelsea? I was like, the first thing he needs to do is Todd Bowley never, ever, ever, ever come in the changing room and speak to the players, ever. One. Like, you can come on the pre-season tour and say good luck, and you can come to the final home game of the season and say thank you very much. Yeah. Like, I don't want you to in any way think that you can control the group of players.
You know, going back to Johan Cruyff, that's one of the first things first piece of advice he gave Pep Guardiola was never allow your chairman into your dressing room. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Because I do think there's been this kind of weird, we've spent so much money on a football club, we need to control every element. Like, okay, we've seen enough. Yeah. You need to hire the right people and you need to stay as far away from the football as possible, because there's a real big chance you've thrown at least 500 million quid down the drain within the first year. So we've had enough of that. Thanks very much. I do think they're a bit of a mess generally, but they're not a million miles away like everyone thinks they are, because ultimately I think there's high potential in the group. You know, we were all talking about these great young players that they've brought in. They may have overpaid for them, but ultimately what you have is young players, hungry players, streamline the squad, give them some direction, and hopefully you start seeing results. And I think it can turn around for Chelsea a lot quicker than it can, I think, for other clubs in terms of playing that good football. Pochettino is a great appointment, but it might be the wrong club, to be perfectly honest. The one thing that I think about Chelsea is I think it's a pretty ruthless group of fans who have been used to getting rid of the manager as soon as it goes wrong. Pochettino is one of the nicest managers in football, and his success has been based around a group of players and a family spirit. They all come together. He puts his trust in them when everyone else is saying they're not good enough. You know, he gives them the motivation out there to go out and play. He's, you know, the last half of Arsene Wenger's time at Arsenal, you might kind of take and see as Pochettino's time at Spurs. It didn't work for Pochettino at Paris Saint-Germain, and I lost a lot of respect. Respect is the wrong thing. I respect the guy massively, but in terms of being able to go into a terrible culture and change it around, that's what I was kind of wanting to see from Pochettino, and he might have to do the same here at Chelsea. And I know a lot is made about, he couldn't manage the big figures at Paris Saint-Germain, and it was the club was such a mess. They told him what to do, and he just went along with it. Like, I get all of those things.
No one could, though.
But I don't care.
What do you mean you don't care?
I don't care that other people didn't get it right. I don't care, because you're if I'm talking about Pochettino,
right,
you should be good enough. Like when you take a job and someone says like, by the way, everyone else was terrible at this job, that's why we've hired you. You don't go, I'm going to be terrible too.
But what I would, but what I would ask is, so what's going on here? Why is everyone failing?
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I expected him to go in there and be like, let's address this. Because he now has to do that at Chelsea. It's not as toxic as it was at Paris Saint-Germain. I don't think the expectation is going to be as high as it is at Paris Saint-Germain. But there is a cultural issue at Chelsea, for sure. And he has to turn that around very, very quickly. He's not necessarily going to be able to get all of these players out of the club straight away. He's not going to have much time to assess them in pre-season, certainly not under the it's not like he's come in the middle of the season where he goes, what are they like on game day? He's just going to see them in pre-season. He's going to get to know them and he's going to have to make a choice as to who his players are. That's going to be difficult for him. So he needs to take a sledgehammer to the culture at Chelsea.
Right.
In a weird way, his sledgehammer is his nice personality. Because in the way that he changes the culture of Chelsea is to get people to love him. Right? As in these Chelsea fans have not loved one of their managers since Jose Mourinho, loved them.
So we've got, do you
see what I mean?
I hear what you're saying.
In an emotional sense.
No, I get that.
Not like them a lot.
Sorry, you're talking about the fans here or the players?
The fans.
The fans, yes.
No, this is all part of it. This is all part of the culture.
Sure.
Because the players, the success that he had before was getting players to play for him because of who he was.
Right.
That I'm not going to his tactics were good, but he's not a game-changing tactical manager.
No.
He had an excellent defence. He had forward players that were enjoying themselves, going out there playing football with a smile on their faces. He needs to bring a smile to Chelsea's players and to the fans and be like, by the way, guys, we're going to go on a great journey. And he needs to be lovable, and he is a lovable guy. He is a lovable guy.
I think he's got more clout than Graham Potter, and that's huge in this, I think, because I think clout does matter when you're going to be manager for Chelsea. So you've spoken about a lot of things here, and I think in terms of those sort of 5 things, let's see what we can get to here. But in terms of working with the players, the players is one, the fans is one. I think culture, as snobby as it sounds at times, is certainly something in there. The hierarchy is another one, and I think how well we've got players there, but sort of how bloated that squad is, I think, is something as well. It's because you've got to trim the squad down first, and then you've got to get them to play.
I think when we said players, we really meant the relationship between him and the players. How does he get them to play for him? And that is, I think, aside from what tactics is he going to play, how they're going to be successful on the football pitch.
So I have there's one problem that stops me from going, love it, love this appointment. I think it makes complete sense. Because what you're saying in terms of his connection with the players, what he did at Spurs, because look, you've got him at, this could be PSG to a point. Chelsea have elements of PSG in them. They also have elements of that Spurs side that he took over and did brilliantly with. The reason he did brilliantly with them is because he did get rid of Adebayor, Benoit Assou-Ekotto, Aaron Lennon, the people that weren't up to it. There's a great article by, I think, JaackMaate, and he was talking about how, and I'm sure everyone's heard this phrase that he said before, he said, you're not signed to play for Tottenham, you're signed to train for Tottenham. And that intensity of the training, in that first sort of 6 months, year, he didn't sort of get everyone out, but by the end of it, he then went, oh, okay, you, Adebayor, shock, are not up for all this extra running at the end of training and things like that. Whereas the young, malleable Harry Kane, Danny Rose, all of those guys, Dele Alli, who were hungry and wanted to make something of themselves, they jumped on board. And with that, they created this exciting team, right? There's lots of those elements in that Chelsea squad. There's a lot of young players that want to do something, that have the potential to do something. So that side of it, I really like. But the thing that keeps getting in my way is that exactly what you said at the start. It's the right manager and it's the right project, but it's the wrong club. Because he will not get that year to go sort of gently, because I think the fans will try their best. Certain sections, not all Chelsea fans, of course not, but certain sections will be the first thing that people go to. And I just feel like unless he starts really well and I'm not totally sure he can start really well because there's so much work to be done, he's going to struggle. So the first word that jumped out at me that Hugh said at the time, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, but we didn't get to it afterwards, and that happens when you're kind of having that dialogue. Sledgehammer to the culture. A sledgehammer to the culture. I think that's such an interesting target and aim for Pochettino. First question for the Chelsea fans, and for everyone, I guess, but in particular Chelsea fans, because obviously you know your club and you know what can occur at your club. You know what can change at your club. This idea of a sledgehammer to the culture. First of all, what is that culture? You know, I think the culture is a ruthless football club, right? I think that's what you've been known for, having incredibly high standards, expecting trophies. You know, the fact that Abramovich is gone, that doesn't wash away what's kind of been ingrained in you. And so when you have those expectations, which have worked, you know, the changes in managers generally, it's worked. But now under this new regime, I'm not totally sure what that culture is. Because the culture isn't about quality, because we haven't seen that yet, right? The culture is not about giving people time, because you haven't done that either. So in terms of that sledgehammer, I think what Pochettino brings that Graham Potter didn't have is, that clout that I was talking about. So he's got that opportunity to change the culture, but I don't think it's actually even, you know, smashing it to pieces, because I think there is a bit of a sort of blank slate here and a lack of vision. Todd Bowley's not got the gravitas and has not made the right decisions, it feels like, in the short term, we'll see medium and long term, to sort of drive this ship. And so what I think you're trying to have with Pochettino, I think Pochettino wants to do it himself as well, is he wants to have that power and he wants to have that ability to drive the ship. Problem is, there's only so many changes you can make. It's more about culling. But I think if given the time, and I speak about that, he can build a new culture. My question is, how ingrained is the old culture? And when you're at the starting point of a new project, that's all well and good. But I keep coming back to what Rory said, and I think, you know, Rory knows Chelsea, and you'll scream at that. But I think he does, and Rory doesn't want Pochettino in the job. And I think with Potter, I was like, this makes sense. Okay, you're trying something new. But I think you can't deny what a club is. And there is that glamour with Chelsea. There always has been. There always will be. So Pochettino is a level above, despite the glow-up, Graham. And I think the haircut was great. Pochettino is a step up. But what I cannot get away from is what Rory couldn't get away from. And I think he's spot on. Is that the Tottenham angle? Because I've written some bits down here. It's like, can he make the fans love him? Another thing Hugh said, can he do that? Can he do that whilst finishing 5th? Can he do that without winning a trophy in his first season? Because that is what Chelsea fans have come to expect. And a lot of money has been spent on these players. Now, is he the right person to get the best out of those players? And is that the key to unlock all of this for him to get the time that he wants? Because there will be ups and downs in terms of a season. What he has to do, that pre-season is absolutely huge for him. Because I think Chelsea fans will be understanding of the mess that is there and of the youth that's there. But what I can see angering Chelsea fans is the sale of quite possibly a lot of that English talent that never got that chance, because you have to sort of find space for this new young talent that you've spent loads of money on. You have to find a way for them players to work, or certainly at least for the next 24 months, let's say. That's got to be the remit for Pochettino. So that makes life tricky. Can he truly choose the players that he wants? Let's talk about him wanting to change it up when it comes to Mason Mount, who looks like he might be leaving. But they also need to bring in some money because they've had such an outlay. And, you know, the players that will get that money, we did a video on this in terms of the players that you could go and get. And by the way, before you watch it, word of warning, we say I say 15 million when it comes to Ruben Loftus-Cheek, but the editor put 50 million. We all make mistakes. He's a wonderful editor. I love you, Finn. So just chill, okay, when you see that. But we sort of have a look at the next 3 transfer windows. There's a lot to change there. And to have that time that Arteta has had, I just wonder. Other things I've written down here. So first of all, Chelsea fans, can he change the culture? I think he wants to, and I think he's got a very clear vision, so I think that's a great start. Can he make the fans love him? I'm struggling with that one. Without winning a trophy. I guess maybe it's just got to be, more exciting football, more goals, improvement, right, from where they're at, because, I think the one useful thing is the fact that the baseline this year has gone from here to here. There's been such disappointment, but at the same time, you've spent all this money, so you're expecting a real bounce from Pochettino, let's be honest. Can you get past the Tottenham thing? You know better than I do, so talk to me. And everyone else, head to the comments, because I want to hear from Chelsea fans. Can you get past the Tottenham thing? Look, I'm a QPR fan. We've had several ex-Chelsea players and managers. It is a little annoyance, but you do generally get past it, I would say. But as your figurehead, in terms of what Chelsea have been, because I think the personality has mattered a lot for Chelsea managers in the past. But at the same time, Lampard's not worked. Di Matteo long-term's not worked. So can you get past that? And last question, simple one. How good is that squad? Now, we know there's a bit of a mess in terms of you haven't got the striker that you want, concerns over the goalkeeper, an ageing midfield, players coming to the end of their contract, not knowing if they want to sign or not, sort of flooded in the wide areas as well. But it feels like total potential right now. But, as I say, odd squad building. So is there enough quality in there to create this knock-on effect of allowing Pochettino the time in the face of the fact that he is a Tottenham guy? I just think it's interesting, and I wanted to add that in. So let me know. Lots of questions. Get in the comments if you enjoyed this video and this style of video in terms of taking a clip from the ripple effect and offering you up a bit of that, but also kind of going that next level, I guess, and mixing it up with a few thoughts later on. Then let me know. I'm sorry for the end of this video.